7 keys for the New York Jets to upset the Pittsburgh Steelers and come away with a week 1 victory to open the 2025 NFL season. So, key number 1 to me is for the New York Jets to blitz in this game. Now, blitzing, it's a trade-off, right? Ideally, you just have the 2015 Denver Broncos defense where they had Chris Harris and Aqib Talib at corner and Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware at edge. And it's just get home with 4 sticky corners. You have linebackers and safeties floating around in the middle, and you just have such great personnel that's all you have to do. You don't have to blitz. That's ideal. And we saw the Jets have a lot of success doing that in 2022 and 2023 under Robert Saleh when they almost never blitzed and they were an excellent defense both seasons. However, I don't know if the Jets have the personnel on the defensive line to get away with having that low of a blitz percentage and consistently get home with Jermaine Johnson on the mend and with the depth of the defensive line. Let's call it what it is. Last year, the Jets did not have a good defensive line. Now, in terms of pass rush help, where is the pass rush help coming from? Run defense, Phillips. Run defense, Briggs. Run defense, probably Jermaine, even when he's working his way back. He'll be better than what they had out there at edge last year, but where is this like extra pass rush boost coming from the New York Jets in terms of personnel from last year? I don't really see it. So they're going to have to blitz a little bit. Now, they're not going to be 100% reliant on the blitz like the Rex Ryan teams because they do have Quinnen. They do have Will McDonald, both guys who are capable of, getting 8 to 10, maybe even 12 sacks with Will. But you have to get pressure on the quarterback. And I think this Jets team doesn't have the dudes to 100% only rushing for and get home. Furthermore, it's a matchup dependent thing. Aaron Rodgers in his prime, he, like most good quarterbacks, he was lethal against the blitz. You blitzed him and he was going to kill you. But since 2022, well, it's only really 2 seasons because he missed 2023, but 2022 and 2024, I'm going to guess that's a better barometer of data to use than, like 2020, the more recent data. But he has been bottom 10 in completion percentage over expected, DVOA, yards per attempt, expected points added, all of the nerd stats that you could fathom that he was top 5 in for 15 years. Since 2022, he's been bottom 10 against the blitz. And if you remember, probably his 2 worst games of the year, the 2 games that he got beat up the most was against the Denver Broncos and Minnesota Vikings back-to-back early in the year. Vance Joseph and Brian Flores tuned him up. And he was getting hit like crazy, right? And those were his 2 worst games. They each blitzed him over 20 times. So, and it worked. And it's not that you're rooting for somebody to get hurt or anything like that, but I think at his age, like mentally, is he going to be as resilient to those hits as he was when he was, 30 years old? It's a violent sport. I'm not saying we want to go full bounty gate. Okay. And to be clear, but hit him, say hello, introduce yourself to the other team's quarterback. Right. So that's the number one thing. I think you're going to want to maybe blitz a little bit more than we did under the previous coaching staff, particularly in this matchup. Now, maybe he gets a 1-on-1 matchup he likes and he beats you deep. Like, there's always a risk to it, but I'd rather lean on the side of being aggressive with this particular matchup and bring in some pressure. You also have guys like Jamie Sherwood and Quincy Williams, who Quincy Williams is an incredibly efficient blitzer. Him and Sherwood were, both of them were in the top 12 in pressure rate per blitz in the NFL last year. Only 2 linebackers on the same team who are in the top 12. So they got a couple of guys who could be really efficient blitzers as linebackers. So let's do it, man. And then obviously it frees up a hat so you can get 1-on-1 matchups with Quinnen and Will. If Aaron Rodgers is getting his matchups and he's dropping dimes and DK Metcalf is Moss and Sauce Gardner and Calvin Austin is cooking Brandon Stevens and Rodgers is hitting him in the breadbasket and we lose that way, then so be it. You tip your cap and you say, damn, all right. But I don't want to just sit back and let Aaron Rodgers hit us for 6-7 yard checkdowns at a time. Bring the heat a bit. Number 2, Sauce Gardner. We paid him $30 million. Well, we didn't. I didn't pay him anything. The Jets paid him $30 million a year. And to me, you have to maximize his skill set and coverage. Now, it's not 2010, so teams don't have corners, shadow receivers like Darrelle Revis anymore. You very rarely see that. The closest thing you'll see is Surtain, who will do that situationally. But a big third down, you're going to let DK Metcalf just line up on Brandon Stevens' side of the field and run an 8-yard slant and get a pitch and catch and just move the chains on a big third down when you're maybe tie game in the fourth quarter. To me, that's crazy. It's crazy because why are you paying? You can't pay a guy $30 million and allow the defense to dictate by their alignment to almost take him out of the play. Here, you go guard our number 3 guy who's going to run a decoy route, and I'm going to get DK Metcalf on a one-on-one on a matchup I like. To me, that's just wild. Especially in third down and passing situations. They know you're in cover one, coach. They know you're running cover one. There's nothing to give away. Okay, so have Sauce travel with DK Metcalf. Sauce got the better of that matchup when they played last year in Seattle. So that's number 2. Number 3, no risk it, no biscuit. Who's that? Bruce Arians? Yeah, man. If the New York Jets have a 4th and 1 on the Pittsburgh 45-yard line and they punt, we can forward directly to the 2026 NFL draft. We can cancel the season. If they're going to come out with a Todd Bowles punt, no. You have to be aggressive, especially short yardage when you have, again, talk about maximizing the skill sets that your players have. Justin Fields, yeah, he's not freaking Joe Burrow. He's not going to carve up their team for 300 yards. What can he do? He can get you a 4th and 1. If you're not going to use him to do that, then that's silly, right? So no risk, no biscuit. You got to go for a 4th down. You have to find a way to steal some points. The Jets are 3-point underdogs, and I would say that's about fair. That the Steelers, with the information we have right now, are a better team than the Jets. The Steelers played the Jets last year with these quarterbacks it was Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, that's pretty much a wash. So same level of quarterback play at their given ages, and the Steelers blew out the Jets. So fair enough. They're better. Mike Tomlin is the Hall of Fame head coach. Aaron Glenn's a rookie. So you got to steal some points, whether that's stealing a possession by going for it on 4th down and have that be in your mind on your 3rd down play call. If it's 3rd and 2, you could do a QB sneaking and get it to a half yard and then do another one. You don't even need to throw it. That's what the Eagles do. The Eagles basically are on 1st and 8. Now, obviously, they're very unique in their efficiency with the tush push in a way that is not, I'm not saying you could duplicate, but it's the same philosophy. A trick play. One of those old, double reverse passes that Mike LaFleur cooked up to steal 30 yards and set yourself up for a field goal. You're going to have to do some of that to come away with a win because the Steelers are not going to beat themselves. This is a tough game for the Jets. I don't do game predictions the day before because who wants to come on here and me say they're going to lose the day before the game? No one wants to hear that, but it's going to be a tough game for the Jets with the way this Pittsburgh team is built, particularly on their defense. No risk it, no biscuit. Number 3. Number 4, ball out, Justin. Literally, ball out. Why is no one else talking about this? We always talk about this Justin Fields, his accuracy, his processing, his lack of offensive line play and coaching. The fact that he and Jeremy Ruckert are former semi-roommates twice removed. Dude, throw the ball. That's all we need to worry about with Justin Fields in this first game. That's all I'm looking for. Is the ball taken and thrown in a swift manner. Because if we're not doing that, everything else we're talking about doesn't mean anything. They will not be able to have a functioning offense if they can't do that. Now in terms of the offensive line, getting the protection right, the quarterback, the play caller, calling plays that are conducive to the ball, getting out quickly, wide receivers getting open, all that involved, ball has to come out. I think, I know people talk about like what models you want to build your offense around with Fields, like early, Jalen Hurts years, early Lamar Jackson years when he was more of a one-read guy as like rookie year, Jaden Daniels with Cliff Kingsbury last year. But to me, like I look at how Sean Payton called games for rookie Bo Nix last year. And I really think that would be the blueprint. It was a ton of max protect, a ton of boots where you're rolling to one side and isolating half the field. He really called plays in ways that truly protected his quarterback and maximized his skill set and allowed him to get out on the move and use his legs. And Bo Nix ran for 400 yards. So let's do some of that. Get that ball out, particularly against his Pittsburgh team, because TJ Watt and Nick Herbig had 10 combined forced fumbles last year. So if you're not able to get the ball out against this Pittsburgh team, they're going to make you pay more than most other teams would. So let's get that ball out. Number 5, Cook Ramsey. We got Chef Ramsey. Well, Garrett Wilson was the chef in their first matchup. Now, Jalen Ramsey, it seems like he's still a pretty solid defensive back looking at his analytics. It doesn't seem like he's completely washed, but he looked cooked when the Jets played the Dolphins last year. Garrett Wilson had him in hell, and the Jets left a lot of meat on the bone. There was a walk-in touchdown that, the ball got there and he made the catch and guided him out of bounds, but it was a walk-in touchdown. There were some opportunities missed, a couple because of the offensive line, quarterback, whatever. I think Garrett also had a drop in that game, so he was open a lot more than the team was able to show for it. And I would say outside of Garrett, the rest of the Pittsburgh back seven on their defense has an advantage over the Jets pass catchers. So when that matchup presents itself and he's getting open, you have to take advantage of those opportunities. If he cooks Ramsey on another out and up and it's a walk-in touchdown, you have to hit it. You can't hit it. Oh, it's 30 yards. You got out of bounds. We're in field goal range. Don't have that margin for error. If they're giving you a touchdown, you got to take it. So if he's cooking Ramsey, we have to take advantage. Number 6, pitch counts in baseball bats. Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, one of you is going to have to step up because we talked about the Jets defensive line. They really have 2 dudes who can line up and consistently, if you are blocking them with one human, they will eventually make you pay. And that is Quinnen Williams and Will McDonald. If you want to block them with one human being, I don't care who it is. It could be Penei Sewell, prime Zach Martin. Eventually, one of those dudes is going to make you pay. They're too good. So if you're the Steelers, and it's a passing down, I'm going to double team Quinnen, and I'm going to send a little chip and release towards Will McDonald, and I'm going to say, somebody else win a rep. That's what I would do. And you're looking at edge, that somebody else is probably going to be a combination of Jermaine Johnson, mostly Michael Clemens, lined up across from Broderick Jones, who's playing left tackle. McDonald will mostly be on going up against Fontenot. So Michael Clemens or Jermaine Johnson, they're going to have to win some one-on-ones against Broderick Jones for the Jets to get home. Number 7, Kene Nwangwu, save us. So the kickoff is going to be back, right? Teams are not going to be as willing to give you a touchback to the 35-yard line. And the Steelers were not a very good kick return defense last year. Now, that's a pretty volatile stat, so I don't know. They could be better at it. It's kind of random. But I'm just looking for areas that they were weak last year. And Kene Nwangwu has 7 kick returns of over 40 yards in only 71 return attempts in his career. 4 touchdowns and 71 returns. That's crazy. So get your 8th 40-plus yard return touchdown to put or a 40-yard return, put the ball at midfield. You're a first down away from field goal range. To steal 3 points that way. Now we can go on and on and on. I mean, I was trying to think about like X factors, like a Tony Adams or an Andrew Beck, right? One of these lesser heralded players that could play a key role based on matchups. And it actually might be Tony Adams. I like to think about it. But the reality is, man, the Jets need their really good players to play really good, because their really good players did not play really good last year. They just didn't. Who was a really good player on the Jets who played really good last year? Will McDonald? Like, who played up to expectations? Will McDonald, Jamie Sherwood, Devontae Adams? I don't know. Like, who? I don't know. Sauce? Garrett had 8 drops. Brees had 8 drops and 6 fumbles. Sauce was not his best. So they need their really good. Quinnen was not his best last year. Quinnen had games against the run where and people are freaking out like he has no help. And I'm like, dude, I'm watching Osiris Torrance walk him 20 yards downfield one-on-one. I'm watching it on the All-22. So those guys can play better, and they're just going to have to. Their best players have to play better. Garrett Wilson, Cook, Jalen Ramsey. Sauce Gardner, strap DK Metcalf. Breece Hall, get one of those dump-offs, and you make 2-3 guys miss, you turn it into a 40-yard game out of nothing. Quinnen Williams, the last time the Jets played Aaron Rodgers, this was 2022 in Green Bay, where the Jets beat the Packers. Quinnen Williams looked like Aaron Donald in that game. He had 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble. He batted down a pass, and he blocked the field goal. Quinnen Williams is worth like 10 points in that game. And he runs hot and cold. Some of it is the nature of the position, but I think Quinnen is a little bit more streaky than most. He'll go for a 2-3 week stretch where he looks like Chris Jones, and a 2 or 3 week stretch where he looks like, just kind of average. So their best players have to show up and play really well, because TJ Watt's showing up. TJ Watt is gonna get his. All right. And then furthermore, like, prevent the other teams from beating you in obvious ways. The example I always go back to is just so, and until the Jets stop doing it, I will stop bringing it up. It's like 1,000 degrees in this room right here, so I'm like sweating. But there was a game it was in 2015. It was the year where they just missed the playoffs, and they had a very frustrating loss to the Texans. And if you're a Jet fan, you probably already remember all these games. They lost to the Texans, and the Texans were playing some third string quarterback like TJ Yates or whatever. And I remember the announcer before the game, because the Texans were undermanned. The Jets were, they were doing pretty well that season. That was the year they won 10 games. The announcer before the game says, the Texans have 2 players who can beat you: DeAndre Hopkins and JJ Watt. And he was saying, don't let those guys beat you. And what happens in that game? DeAndre Hopkins burns Darrelle Revis for like a 70-yard one-handed catch touchdown. And that was, no longer prime Darrelle Revis. So I don't know if he needed to be in single coverage that whole time. And then JJ Watt beats a single team and has like a strip sack to seal the game. So don't lose in those obvious ways. Now, obviously, you draft Armand Membu to be able to block guys like TJ Watt one-on-one at number 7. You draft him to do that eventually. I don't know, in his first ever NFL game at 21 years old, if you need to ask him to do that. Now, maybe he can. I don't know if I want to necessarily find out right away. So I think when in doubt, go with a little bit more max protection. I'd rather deal with less eligible guys downfield and make that trade-off than TJ Watt living in the backfield and ruining our life. And it doesn't have to be like, and again, it could just be some little chips and release. There's some help that way, rolling play action away from him. It's just, he can ruin your day. So you got to account for that. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it will be close. I do think it will be a close game unless one team gets like fumble happy or something. I just don't know if either team has the offensive firepower versus the other team's defense to score more than like 24 points. So that might be the magic number, like 23 points. Whoever can get to 23 points can probably win this game. Now, I did get a couple of questions last weekend about the 2026 quarterback class, and I didn't want to make a whole separate video about it because, number one, I don't like talking draft this early. We're about to open the season. I want to be talking about the draft. And number two, I haven't done a lot of homework on these quarterbacks to have like that much of a nuanced opinion. But it was like a few people tagged me on Twitter and messaged me, so I'm like, all right, here's the way I see this quarterback class so far. Because the Jets might be taking a quarterback next year. Not guaranteed. We'll see what we have with Justin Fields. I'm not going to be doing a weekly like check-in on these quarterbacks. Well, until the Jets are mathematically eliminated, this year is all that matters. But for now, I see it as 4 guys I really have my eye on, and I kind of break it up into 3 tiers. Tier number 1 by himself to me is Nussmeier, LSU. and he passes the sniff test, doesn't he? It's like, yeah, that's gonna work. And it's hard now. I know that Joe Burrow was like one of the best quarterback prospects, him and Andrew Luck, like the last 15 years. But it's hard not to see a little bit of Joe Burrow in that LSU quarterback, isn't it? He's poised, he's confident. He's not an elite athlete, but he has enough improvisational ability. The ball just looks different coming out of his hands, right? I think Garrett Nussmeier is I think he's QB1 for my 2 cents. Then, and I think he's just very polished, and I think the word pro ready will be attached to him as the process unfolds. So number one will be Nussmeier to me. Then there's two guys who I think are very talented, but kind of raw right now, and that is Drew Aller and Lenoris Sellers. Between the two, I lean Sellers just because I think he's a phenomenal athlete. He's built like a running back. His ability to not get sacked and to keep plays alive when guys are like climbing all over his back is unreal. It reminds me of Big Ben. Back in his heyday, where guys would just shake off of him. Just such a powerful dude, and then really good mobility. And then there's enough arm talent that's there, and you hope you could coach him. You're just not going to get a lot of ready-made prospects. I mean, even Garrett Nussmeier is a rare one, and who knows, he could bust too. But and then there's Aller, who he's super tall and he's got a howitzer arm. So I know everyone likes to say the Josh Allen because he's a 6'5" white dude with a big arm, but he doesn't really play like a gunslinger. He's a little bit of a check down Charlie who can take shots when needed. And Penn State was more than happy to take the ball out of his hands last year in the playoffs and not really have him. They just ran the ball until they needed him down the stretch, and then he threw a pick. So we'll see with Aller. Like, does the Penn State offense kind of take the reins off of him when the competition gets stiffer? He looked very, very good. I think they played Nevada. He obviously looked very good. So yeah, he has a very rare combination of size and arm talent. With Aller, I don't, and correct me if you've watched more of him or whatever, I push back on like that he's super mobile or athletic. I mean, when he gets those long legs going in space, yeah, he can chew up some ground, but I don't think he's very agile. I think he's kind of got some heavy feet. So he may be closer to Joe Flacco than Josh Allen, which that's no shade. A Joe Flacco career is worth taking in the first round. He's been in the league. He's started in the league for 20 freaking years. Okay, he's rich as hell. So I think we always do these pro comps, and people get insulted if you don't insinuate that there's not going to be that every player in the first round is going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, no, you'll take a Joe Flacco at the number 12 overall pick or whatever. So those would be the two guys there. So you got Nussmeier, like he is the one to me that's like, yeah, hell yeah. Then Sellers, Aller, you could convince me. Either one, maybe they need to sit a year, but there's definitely some tools to work with there. Then the next guy down, which I'm just really curious about, is John Mateer. Now he's at Oklahoma. They play Michigan this weekend, so I'm really excited to see him against some higher level of competition because he's got some of the Baker Mayfield energy. He's got the headband and the eye black, and he's got the hockey hair. He's kind of looks like a lacrosse bro. And he's a strong dude running around out there, throwing the ball around. Kind of has that moxie that you might need in New York. That's just shit matters, man. You can't tell me it doesn't. You can't tell me a Baker Mayfield personality doesn't go better for the Jets than the Zach Wilson. I'm sorry, I'm not. It matters to me. So, but I want to see him. I want to see him against this slate because he's going to play some really damn good defenses. Not so much week one, and his splits throughout his career have been he really is piled up against bad defenses. No, that's a lot of college quarterbacks, but to him, like the split is so dramatic. So he's another one I want to check as the competition gets stiffer. Those would be the top four to me. Now there's other guys, of course. You got Klubnik, Carson Beck, and those guys look like they're going to make tremendous backups in my sniff test, man, because hey, there can't be 7 guys you love. There's not going to be 7 starting quarterbacks out of this class. And then there's Sam Leavitt, who's interesting as well. But those guys would be in that next tier of like, we'll see, but really Nuss, Sellers, Aller, Mateer would be the 4 just like my favorites right now. David drops in the super chat, says, "Hey BJ, feeling pretty good about the Steelers. Looking forward to a victory, dude. I want the Jets to win this game so bad, man. I really do, because it's gonna be very depressing if they don't. And you don't want to have Buffalo coming in and already being 0-1, and you got to go to Tampa. So really, like, of their first 3 games now, just as it looks right now, this game is probably the most winnable of their first 3, because Tampa's on the road. Tampa's probably a similar level team to Pittsburgh, but that's a road game, and the Bills are just the best team they play, probably, besides Baltimore this year. So yeah, you want to find a way to win this game. Obviously, there's the Aaron Rodgers thing attached to it. Yeah, obviously, if he puts, you don't want him to have some crazy good game and the Jets lose to a blowout. That would obviously be horrible. So you want to win this damn game. That's what the schedule makers did. The schedule makers put this on here. And we're like, oh, it's an Aaron Rodgers revenge game. So punish them with an ugly, unwatchable 17-13 Jets win. Come on. Appreciate it, David. As always, brother. Yeah, man, I don't know what to expect. Like the Jets could come out and roll in, and I'd be like, all right, man, we're turning the corner. Or they could just, I'd have no idea what to expect from this team. I really don't. That's why it's kind of an exciting season, because you're like, I have no expectations. And we'll find out what we're working with sooner. We know, dude, we typically know like the first half, man. And we cope. Remember last year against San Fran, we're like, well, it's just one game and the Niners are good and everything's okay. It's like, no, dude, that was our season in a nutshell. That's how it was going to go. So let's start the opposite. Let's be the Niners this time. Just physically punch them in the face. BGF, Pittsburgh lost 8 consecutive games to close the 2024 season. Wow, is it really that bad? They have a new quarterback, left tackle, right tackle, wide receiver 1, and Arthur Smith calling plays, and I'm hearing we are losing this game. What am I missing? Well, it's a field goal spread, so they are slight. The Jets are slight underdogs. I think what it really comes down to is that the Steelers have every year they have questions like that, where like they have a new thing, and then this guy's old, this guy's young, this guy's unproven, and every year it's like, oh, this is the year where they bottom out, and they never do. They never do. So the Steelers have decades of showing you that maybe they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they beat teams, quite frankly, like the Jets. That's how they get 10 wins. They beat the Browns and they beat, the Jets. And they beat the Titans like that. That's how they get 10 wins. That they just wait you out and they say, we know it's coming. Where is it? Where up? Fumble. Boom. There it is. Thank you very much. On our way. We will go now lose to some good team, but it won't matter because we only play 6 good teams. We play 10 teams like you, and we'll steal a weird divisional game against a good team, and we'll have our 10 wins. And that's been their season. So I'm not dismissing anything you're saying. Like they're not some perfectly built team or whatever. And maybe eventually they do bottom out. But they played Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback, and they never have a losing record. So that's just what it is. That's really the difference. They get the benefit of the doubt. So in this game, the Jets have an opportunity to announce, to make an initial statement that says, we're not a free win anymore. You can't just wait us out and wait for us to beat ourselves. Start Metcalf or Odunze in fantasy. I'd probably say Metcalf because he's going to have way less target competition. I mean, Odunze, they have DJ Moore and Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, Cole Kmet. So I'd probably say Metcalf because Rodgers is going to pepper him with targets, so he'll probably get some production. Run the bleep out of it. Yeah, man, and thank you for the super chat, by the way. Big Bunda. Sauce shout out. Yeah. But I think even if Sauce could have a good game, and let's say Metcalf has 5 catches on 12 targets, but it's still 5 catches for whatever 70 yards maybe, and it's inefficient. But for fantasy points, you don't care, right? You just want the yards. Yeah, I know there might be a tendency initially when like, oh, they predict you're gonna run, so come out and pass. Yeah, you have to pass a bit, but did you just do the thing. We know the thing you're gonna do. We know the thing. Just do it. Just let's see if it works because they know it. We know it. The Jets are gonna have to be able to be good enough, and it's gonna be harder without AVT. Just straight up. Myers was one of the worst run blocking centers in the NFL last year. As a pass blocker, he's actually pretty good. On the move, hitting his spots on screen passes and wide zone, he's okay. He just doesn't have the power and the juice as a power run blocker. Yeah, that's why he's a backup. But the Jets are going to have to be a team that can run the ball when the other team knows they're going to run it. That's their only path to scoring points this year. So, first drive. Let's see it, man. Brees Hall between, right guard and right tackle. Can you get 6 yards? That's what is going to have to be your thing, man. So, there's no hiding from it. How do I feel about the Jets? You know what I loved seeing today? The Jet Press tweeted out that the Jets are working out a punter, Colton Spangler. Definitely a made up name, by the way. This guy is not real. So the Jets are working out a fake punter, Colton Spangler, wink, wink. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Did McNamara get hurt? But the Jet Press points out and says the Jets are facing a lefty punter. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a lefty punter. So they're doing a tryout with this guy so they can get their punt returners to field punts from a lefty because the ball comes off different. And they never did that under Robert Saleh because Saleh was busy giving them like a metaphor, about a badger who learned origami or whatever, and the other badgers made fun of him. But one day he made like a piece of origami that like saved the rainforest, and all that. So instead of doing that, Aaron Glenn was like, "Hey, why don't we just have a lefty punter punt to the guy so they could see what it feels like?" And no, badgers don't live in the rainforest. Saleh was running the steps. It's hard, man. Like, it's just hard. How many people have the ability to be like an NFL head coach? Because Saleh was a good DC, which is hard enough as it is, but it's a difficult gig. Any leadership gig. Like, we all have jobs. I know we all say we could do the boss's job better, but I don't know. My real job was a nightmare today. Horrendous ending to the day. And at 4:00, I just left, and I just got an email from my boss like right before I started this, who's clearly been trying to put out these fires for 3 hours. And I've already been home talking about the Jets. So it's easy to say you could do it, but it's tough, man. I don't know. It's really tough. Especially you're managing millionaires, egos, all kinds of personalities. Malachi Corley, who, dude, Malachi Corley, according to Devontae Adams, so Devontae gets traded to the Jets. Now, he wants number 17. And he says, hey, kid, hey, Rook, I'll give you whatever it was, 25 grand for the number 17, and you pick a different number. Now, what that really is, that's not an offer. That's not a negotiation. That's, hey, we're doing this. I'm a veteran, like borderline Hall of Famer. You're a rookie who has like one catch. This is happening, but as a courtesy, I'm going to give you 20 grand, which is a nice courtesy. If you ask me, I would love someone to offer me 20 grand for this plaid shirt. They could have it right off my back. And then maybe I get more super chats if that's what you guys are into. But 20 grand for the number. And then Corley counters and asks for $1 million and says you won't give him the number for $1 million. And then like the Jets coaches have to come like deal with it and be like, dude, no, that's not what's happening. Like, give him the thing. And Devontae Adams, it seems like a pretty chill, like reasonable guy. I mean, there's no reason not to think that what Adams's version of it is not true. So, and then there was reports that Corley didn't want to play special teams. He told Sean Jefferson, I'm a receiver. So Sean Jefferson's the source, guys. He's the only offensive coach that's still here. He told the wide receiver coach, I'm not playing special teams. I'm a wide receiver. How does immaturity, bordering on insanity, asking for $1 million for a number to a veteran, how does that not present itself in pre-draft research? This isn't you're taking Jalen Key for fun. This isn't you're taking Zach Kuntz for fun. This is a player the Jets started calling at pick 40 to trade up for Corley. You know what that would have cost? They were willing to spend like probably a 2 and a 3 on this kid. They danced when the Colts took AD Mitchell, who didn't exactly light the world on fire, but AD Mitchell is checks notes on an NFL roster. And even though what he was their wide receiver for, no matter what text, I don't even know how real that is, but I do have video evidence of them calling teams at 40 and then being like, yes, the Colts, those idiots, they took AD Mitchell and Malachi Corley. And obviously Malachi Corley had some talent. Like he wasn't some guy that nobody heard of. Like Daniel Jeremiah, I believe he was a 52nd player on his board. Or maybe 50th, because I think he just made the top 50 big board. So he was the 50th overall player to Daniel Jeremiah. There's talent there. But he was not even willing to earn his keep. Like Jermaine Johnson played special teams reps as a rookie. He was a first round pick. You're not Malik Neighbors. You gotta. So it's like, how does that not present itself to you in your pre-draft and all the research that you do with a pick that you're that confident in? You're calling it pick 40. So pardon me for not burning MetLife Stadium to the ground because the Jets took Arian Smith, because Arian Smith, well, he can't catch. Well, maybe he'll improve. Maybe he won't, but he has the dog within him. I know he does. Arian Smith is not a punk. The Jets drafted a bunch of receivers who were busts because they were punks. They were soft. You know their names. You know there's 3 names you just thought of. Punk, diva, punk, soft, high picks. Not even going to be in the league. 2nd, 3rd round picks, trading up to get guys. One of them basically a late 1st round pick. Jets take Arian Smith at 110. He'll be in the league longer than those guys. He will, I promise you. Because Aaron Glenn looked into his soul. And he saw a pit bull looking back at him. And not somebody whose career can be derailed by eating a piece of fish that was in the sun a little bit too long. Okay? So, spare me for coping about Arian Smith. Because, my God, what this team has done at the wide receiver position, it violates the Geneva Convention. Elijah Moore, late 1st round pick. Malachi Corley, late 2nd round pick, essentially. Denzel Mims, late 2nd round pick. Alan Lazard, $40 million. These are war crimes. These are fringe roster players. Arian Smith is already better than like half of them. Arian Smith is going to have more career yards than Malachi Corley by like October. forever. Like, how is Corley going to make the league with that kind of attitude? It's crazy. Yeah, I remember like Corley was going to like live with Rodgers or whatever, and they were going to like play Mario Kart and build a bunch of chemistry. And then Rodgers was probably like, "Oh my gosh, this kid doesn't want to like do any work." Or like, geez. Corey Davis. You know what? I'm gonna be honest, man. I I don't think Corey Davis was that horrific of a signing. It wasn't a hit. It wasn't great. You wish you never did it, but I think Corey Davis, on the spectrum of all those guys I listed, Corey Davis was the least egregious. But I'm biased. I was a Corey Davis truther, so take that for what you will. Why do Garrett and Rodgers hate each other? I don't think that they necessarily do. I mean, clearly they weren't best buds. I don't know if they hated each other. You know, I know Garrett Wilson today said that they haven't talked since Rodgers left, but has he talked to Tyron Smith? Has Garrett talked to Tyron Smith since Tyron Smith is no longer on the Jets? Probably not. Whatever. It's, I think a lot of that is just the toll of losing. You know, it's really what it comes down to. You trade for a guy, Devontae Adams, who quit on his team at the time. I mean, I guess every player who requests a trade, like, I don't know. Adams to me, like, he played like Devontae Adams. Like, Devontae Adams was played very well individually, for the Jets last year. Um, but obviously, yeah, and in hindsight, of course, you'd rather have the third round pick back than renting Devontae Adams for 10 games or whatever. Yeah, I'll think of something. You knew we had no chance of re-signing him. What was the point? Yeah, it was complete desperation. Complete desperation, trying to break, basically saying even if we could break the playoff drought, it's worth a third round pick. Which, to be honest, if they did, like if they made the playoffs by one game and Devontae Adams was clearly a deciding factor, if they lost in the first round, yeah, a third round pick would have been worth it to me to break the playoff drought. But obviously, um, and even like Devontae Adams is clearly gone. That dude decided he was going to California in like December, man. He was not long. That's why Giants fans were like, "Oh, we're gonna sign Devontae." It's like, dude, he is not playing another game in that stadium for any quarterback, especially one that's not named Aaron Rodgers. Like, even if Rodgers went back to the Jets, I still think Devontae is probably not on the team. But once you move on from Rodgers, it made it like 100% that Devontae was not going to be on the team because he would have to restructure. Devontae almost had a no trade clause because his contract was so egregious that he could just say, "No, I'm not going to restructure. Sure, I'll play for the Jets for 46 million." Well, no team they can't do that. So now he has them by the you know what. So that's kind of how that went. Yeah, Adams he's a beast, man. Adams had almost 900 yards. Yeah, well, he had like what 1/3 of that against the Jaguars, right? That was crazy. Taylor Green from Arkansas. Okay. Oh, Jets were at their scrimmage. All right. Yeah, I mean, there will definitely be some more names who pop up for sure. Yeah, I mean, Michael, I mean, obviously it's factually true that what you're saying, that obviously we'd rather have the third round pick um than Adams. You know what sucks with Adams too is because you cut him, he's not a comp pick guy. Like Reddick, the Reddick trade, it sucked, but honestly, in terms of draft capital, the Jets gave up a third rounder and they're going to get a fourth round comp pick back in 2026. So and then the comp picks are at the end of the 4th round, so it's a pretty big gap, you know, earliest 3rd round to well, we'll see where the Jets are picking next year, right? Because it was their next year's 3rd they gave up. So let's say the Jets are picking around, I don't know, like 14 or 15, 14 or so next year, 12, 14. That to the end of the 4th round, it's a pretty big gap, but it's not like you're completely losing a pick for Reddick. Like if Reddick didn't decide to hate money, the value of that trade it really did make sense for the Jets at the time. Now I know I'm retiring that phrase. I'm retiring that phrase for making excuses anymore because how many things can you do that make sense at the time? But then you look back, and since 2020, the Jets have the worst point differential in the NFL. So 5 years in a row, if it made sense at the time, and you're the worst team in the NFL. So it's like at some point, enough is enough. But it, it did it did kind of make sense if he was willing to play. Now, obviously, look, whatever, it's water under the bridge, but for the player that they thought they were getting off of the year he had the previous year and his money and for the draft capital, I thought it was a pretty savvy trade, but obviously it ended up being a complete and utter disaster. Dallas, Philly. I wish it was a different game. I wish it was even the Chiefs Chargers tonight, or even the Bills Ravens would be a great one, because especially without Parsons, I mean, you never know. It's a divisional game. Dak always plays well against Philly, but I think Philly's just going to boat race them, right? Hopefully now we get a good game. And watch Reddick have 13 sacks in Tampa. Yeah, I mean, kind of how it goes. But I'm going to leave it there. If you guys have the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. Post game stream Sunday night. See you then. Go Jets.